Hey guys, welcome back to what I hope is the final part of this porthole project. When we left off, we had done the sound alignment, we got a good picture, we got good sound, all the work, major work is done. What's left? Some cosmetic and some screen geometry stuff, and the flyback. You may recall the original flyback is gone, but this is the factory recommended replacement. So this is a Zenith part. Problem with it is the coating is coming away. I think it's beeswax. It's certainly a soft, sticky wax. Now, obviously, this is working. Nothing's arcing. I could just leave it, but there are gaps in it. A little section here broke off. Now, what I've done in the past is use a product called Super Corona Dope, which was a lacquer that had a pretty high volatile organic compound content, VOC, strong solvent. I think they did it for service techs so that you could apply it and it would set up very quickly. It took it off the market. I presume some states, notably California, had an issue with it, and they decided, well, if we lose California, it's such a big market, let's just pull it. This is the replacement. Clear insulating varnish. It's not as good. It takes longer to set up, but more importantly, for what I want to use it for, it doesn't dissolve the old wax. See, the old stuff, I recommended a number of times, you could apply it right over this and it would melt the wax. And it would get into all the nooks and crannies and the two would kind of become one and it would set up and really seal everything. This not so much, or more like it sits on the top. But that being said, this isn't crazy high voltage. It's not like a color set running at 30,000 volts, so I don't think we need to be that crazy about sealing it, so I'm still inclined to just slap some on because everything is working and I don't want to tear it apart. But then another alternative is what I showed on another porthole project, which was to take the flyback and submerge it in paint thinner and completely dissolve the old coating away and then submerge it in multiple rounds of polyurethane. Works great, but it takes days. A day or two to completely dissolve the old coating, and days for the polyurethane. The stuff I use takes 24 hours to set up per coat, essentially. I don't want to tie up my workbench for days, so I think I'll just put that on. Now, I'm also missing the high voltage cover, and I do have another set with this chassis, or a very similar chassis, so and I have the cover. I can use that as a blueprint. It's a bent U-shaped piece of sheet metal. I just need to procure a piece of sheet metal, and I don't have a sheet metal brake, which is a device for bending sheet metal, but I think I can manage. It's not that complicated, and then drill a few holes to secure it to the chassis. But again, obviously the set works without it. I think it's more for protection than functionality, so we can keep going. One thing I definitely need to deal with now, before I put this back in the chassis, is the broken dial strings. Not so much this one. This is the contrast control. You can put the knob on here and turn it, and it works. So why do you need a dial string? It goes to this dial, which has numbers 1 through 9. It does nothing. It's just a free spinning wheel. It's just so you take note of what setting you used. Maybe if you had multiple channels in your area and you wanted to make note of what setting works best for each channel. I don't know. But I definitely don't have to fix that one, but this one I do. This was a fine tuning, and I broke this myself because it just has a bit of tension on it, and I had not re-lubed it before I first tried turning this. And even now that I've re-lubed it, it still takes a bit of force, but when it was more gummed up, it was more than the poor dial string could handle, and it snapped. Let's see, it's a stout piece of string with a spring on either end. Now I have this one so I can see what length it is and retie it to those springs and move on. I think this one was somewhere in the set when I got it. Not sure where it is now. It should be on my workbench somewhere if I have it. If not, I have string, but I need those springs too, so if I can't find it and I can't scavenge up something to use, I may just leave that disconnected for now. Just it's not at all critical. Which leaves the screen geometry. You may have noticed in the last few videos that a shadow appears occasionally around the edge of the screen. Well, it's a few reasons. One, this is mounted on some rubber mounts below, some foam up top, some more rubber here. Over time, the stuff is shrunk and it's deteriorating. I do not want to unmount the CRT and replace all that, especially since it's working pretty well. These have slots with screws, so I can push them up tight against the CRT and tighten it down. I think, well, we'll see when I put this chassis back in the setup. These mounts have shrunk down. This might not line up quite perfectly in that circular opening in the cabinet, so I may need to bump it up if I have to. But the bigger thing I've been struggling with, the reason you saw that shadow, is this, which is a focus coil. It goes right around the neck here. And there are a number of adjustments on it. You can loosen all three of these wing nuts and move the whole thing back and forth. With these loosened in the central one, it's kind of odd. You can tilt it. This top area here is a round bump out, and below it is a washer that's concave. And by carefully manipulating this, you can tilt it. And I found that if I tilted it just the right angle, I got the best picture, but when I would tighten this down, it would start to shift out of position. It's really, really frustrating, because as you tighten it, it deforms that washer and it changes the tilt angle. But I'll worry about that when I've got it in the cabinet and everything else is straightened away. I can fight with these wing nuts. Well, I will save you some cursing. I did get the dial stringing done. Now, there's no dial stringing diagram in the SAMs or the factory service info, so I kind of winged it. But I did have the fragments of the original strings on both sides, so I had some idea how long they should be and how they were arranged. And yeah, there we go, it works. And this side, this has virtually no mass on it. It's just a disc that goes to nothing, so that was a bit easier to do. Alright, now for the flyback, I started poking around the coating with a toothpick, and this just started coming off in big chunks. So I removed it all. In some areas it was a little bit more stubborn, so I used a heat gun, which I was glad to do because I also wanted to drive out any residual moisture. It's relatively dry down here in the basement, and with the addition of the heat gun, I think we're okay there. But I also wanted to take the remaining wax around the inner hub here and around this connector up here and have that flow in and re-adhere better. And then I simply coated it with several coatings of that clear insulating varnish, which is good for something like 5,000 volts per thousandth of an inch. I put on 3 heavy coats, so I'm sure we're fine with that. I've already powered up the set. No corona, no arcing, no issues with that. Did a little bit more cleaning. So I think we are ready to make some final adjustments up on the workbench. I want to clean that volume control. It's a little bit scratchy. And then put this back in the cabinet and make the final geometry adjustments. But before I do, there's something I feel I should point out. I've been avoiding it because it bums me out, but I wanted to show you that there is a defect in the picture tube. There is a flaw in the phosphor right here. It looks like a scratch. No idea how that might have happened. Well, I have some idea. I've seen some that are badly scratched because there's a bit of contamination. Maybe a bit of the cathode coating fell off or some metallic debris, and if the CRT's face down and it's rattling around in there, it scratches the heck out of the phosphor. However, this being aluminized, it's got a little bit more protection than usual. With their conventional black and white CRT, there's basically just a fine phosphor powder and maybe a lacquer coating behind it. Any contamination inside very easily scratches through that. But this is aluminized, so it has an extra layer of metal. So you've got the phosphor, then I believe a lacquer layer, then an aluminized layer. Sure, it's very thin, but at least it's something there. So I don't know. Another possibility is that there was some failure in the deflection system and the electron beam stayed in one spot for a long time and burned it. The point is, this being a porthole set, the entire screen is visible all the time. So any defect is going to be visible. If it was a conventional set that had a rectangular mask on it, heck, you just rotate the CRT around and there'd be something up here that would cover it up and you'd never know it was there. But, oh well. Oh well.
shouldn't have to be a luxury. They offer high-quality hearing aids.
Well, I got the set all back together easily enough, and it seems to be playing pretty well, right? Well, I'll tell you, there is a lurking problem with sound. It will cut out eventually. There appears to be a loose connection somewhere. I noted it while I had it playing up on the workbench, but if I wiggled the wire going to the speaker, the sound came back. I figured it would be all right once I got it back together and everything secured. I was wrong. I think there's a cold solder joint or maybe a break inside of the two wires that go down to the speaker. So they connect up around in here by the volume control. They tied a strain relief knot in it. It goes through a hole in the chassis and down to the speaker down below. The sound will cut out, and if I tug on that wire, sometimes it comes back in for a moment and then it'll cut out again. Sometimes when it's cut out, I cannot get it to come back. I was surprised, quite honestly, that the sound is working now, because when I turned the set off, there was no sound and I'd given up on it. Could it be a thermal issue? Well, I swapped out all the tubes with good tubes. I've tapped stuff. Maybe, but I really do think it's a bad connection. So I need to pull the chassis out again, eventually. Not today. Other than that, it's playing quite well. It's the afternoon on a fairly sunny day. I've got it near a window. With that aluminized picture tube, we can watch it quite nicely. A few other little minor annoyances. I had mentioned a few times about the focus magnet being a little tricky to adjust to get the image centered on the CRT, and it's a little loose. Well, from me moving the cabinet around and working with the sound issue, it's moved a little bit, so we have a little bit of a shadow here. Yeah, I can reach in back of the side and tap it a little bit and get it back into position. However, once I put the back on the set, it'll be completely covered, and I won't be able to do that without taking all the screws out and taking the back off again. So I should really find a better solution for that. Another thing, you may notice some bars moving slowly through the image. That has to do with the 60 hertz coming out of the line being slightly different than the horizontal oscillator frequency, which is 59.94 hertz or something to that effect. Could be from the converter box. I'm using an over-the-air Zenith DTT 900, I do believe. One of my favorite converter boxes. Well, actually, it is my favorite converter box because it's a fairly modern one. This is dated from, I think, 2005, and it has some nice features. One thing I like especially is you can flip through the channels very quickly. Older converter boxes I have, like when the digital transition first happened, when you switch channels, it won't let you go to the next channel until it locks in and stabilizes. It takes a long time to get through the channels, and there are no numbers on the remote control, so the only choice is to go channel up, channel down. The remote for this also has numbers, and you can type them right in, and generally it has a pretty clean output too, so I like using it. Another thing is I noted this early on, it didn't seem to be an issue when I had it down on the workbench, is there is some ripple on the left-hand side. The way these circuits work with the flyback and horizontal deflection is from the center to the right is when the horizontal output tube is conducting and move the electron beam over. Everything on the left-hand side is a recovered energy from the flyback action, which means we've got some ripple in the damper circuit. Now remember, this set has a replacement flyback. There's a very good possibility that that is because it's not tuned quite perfectly as the original was. I'll leave that alone for now as well. When I pull this chassis eventually, when I will have to fix the sound issue, I can tinker around with that a little bit. I may be able to compensate by tweaking some component values. Don't know. Generally, it's not noticeable. What is, though, is that flaw in the CRT. That's where we've got that burn spot in phosphor or whatever defect it is. Again, when you're watching programming, not that noticeable as like what the ripple is, but it's a shame that it's there. Otherwise, the set's great. And that's why it's here in a place of honor in a living space. Most of my sets are in the basement or spare bedroom or in storage, but this one, because the cabinet is so nice, which is a great example of a Zenith porthole set, I wanted to have it here so it's next to our little dining nook. I also like the 12-inch. No, not as impressive as the 16 or 19, but it's more manageable, and it just fits in very nicely between this little arch here and the window. So I very much do like this set. I will someday pull the chassis again and tinker with it, but I've already had some company over, and the sound worked well enough when they were here, and they were suitably impressed with it. Horizontal issue too occasionally. Notice we have a dark spot over here. I can move the screen left, right with the horizontal hold control. That's really not how you should do centering. It should lock on it and be stable, and there is a control for horizontal centering that adds a DC bias to the horizontal yoke winding to move it left, right. You shouldn't use horizontal hold to center the image. Now, as you'll see in another video upcoming, I circled back to this first set I worked on when I started these porthole projects, the blonde set, which has essentially the same chassis. And that set doesn't have that issue. It doesn't seem to. We'll talk about that more when I show you how that set performs. I've got it up on the workbench right now, and I'm finishing it off. But for now, that's going to be it for this project. I hope you enjoyed it, in spite of these issues I mentioned.
Would you just climb off my hiney, please?
It is a great set.
Anything good coming to me?
That's it for now.
No,
Thanks for
I'm
watching.
not from the company. Holy rum bombers, a check for 56 bucks! Oh, boy, we are really rolling in it now, aren't we? Oh, gee. This is to inform you that you will find this check for 56 refund on transit.
At home was just because I didn't have the fine-tuning adjusted. As I mentioned with these split carrier sets, the fine-tuning is essential to get dead on, to get the best sound. They're very sensitive to fine-tuning adjustment. So I just touched it, and we lost the sound almost completely. Go the other way. You start getting some home, and the volume decreases. All right, that is going to be it for now. Thanks for watching.